I said, "Where did you get that card?" The store manager Bethany Sullivan's voice echoed through the Lux & Co. store as she stood over two 8-year-old black girls at the jewelry counter. Her face was flushed red with anger. Her finger pointed accusingly at the small debit card lying on the counter between them. 8-year-old Zara looked up at her, confused and frightened. "We told you. Our mom gave it to us. It's our card." "Don't lie to me," Bethany snapped, snatching the card off the counter. "Little girls like you don't have cards like this. Where did you really get it? Did you take it from your mother's purse? Did you steal it?" Zara's twin sister, burst into tears. "We didn't steal anything. We're trying to buy our mommy a birthday present." But Bethany wasn't listening. She crossed her arms and sneered at them with pure contempt. "I've already called the police. You two aren't leaving this store until they get here." "But we have money," Zara protested, her voice shaking. "The card works. We didn't do anything wrong." Bethany leaned down, her voice dripping with venom. "Save it. I know your type." Those 4 words, "I know your type." 2 children, just 8 years old, standing in an upscale store, well-dressed, polite, with legitimate money to spend. But in Bethany's eyes, they were suspects, they were threats, they were criminals. Why? Because of the color of their skin. Zara's small hands fumbled for the pink emergency phone in her pocket. Through her tears, she whispered, "I'm calling Mommy." Bethany let out a cold, mocking laugh. "Oh, please, call whoever you want. Let's see if this mother of yours even shows up." She had no idea what she'd just done. Because the woman on the other end of that phone? She wasn't just any concerned mother. She was one of the most powerful people in the entire state. So Bethany Sullivan had absolutely no clue that she'd just racially profiled, falsely accused, and called the police on the children of the very woman who had a call over her life. And Victoria Carter, their mother? She was 10 minutes away. Before we continue this story, tell us in the comments where you're watching from, and share this video to others. You will get a special reply from Living Stories. We care about all our viewers. If you want to see the moment this store manager realizes exactly who she just messed with, smash that subscribe button right now. Trust me, you do not want to miss the moment Victoria Carter walks through those doors. This is about to get real. Let's rewind and see how 2 innocent little girls ended up in this nightmare. Zara and Zira Carter weren't just any 8-year-olds. They were the daughters of Victoria Carter, a billionaire businesswoman who built the Lux & Co. retail empire from the ground up, and who now served as mayor of Riverside City. These girls lived a life most people only dream about. Mansions, private drivers, trust funds that could set them up for life. But here's the twist. Victoria had kept her daughters hidden from the public eye their entire lives. No photos, no media appearances. Complete privacy to protect them from the spotlight and danger. So no one knew who the twins were or what they looked like. But despite all that wealth and privilege, Victoria Carter was teaching her daughters something invaluable: responsibility. When the twins turned 8, she gave each of them a debit card connected to their trust funds. Not so they could spend recklessly, but so they could learn about money management, about making smart decisions, about the value of things. And today was the perfect opportunity for them to put those lessons into practice. Tomorrow was their mother's birthday, and Zara and Zira had been planning the perfect surprise for weeks. They'd found it online, a beautiful silver bracelet with a delicate heart charm, $45. Simple, elegant, and meaningful. They wanted to buy it themselves, wrap it themselves, and present it to their mother as a gift bought with their own money, their own effort, their own love. So that Saturday morning, they told their mother they were going to art class. But instead, they asked their driver, James, to drop them at Riverside Mall. Their first solo shopping trip. No nanny, no bodyguards hovering nearby. Just 2 girls, on their own, trying to do something special for the woman they loved most in the world. Zara, the older twin by 3 minutes, was the confident one. Outspoken, bold, always ready to speak up. She wore her designer overalls with pride, her hair styled in 2 perfect puffs, decorated with colorful beads that caught the light. Zara was quieter, more reserved. The thoughtful one who always considered her words carefully. She wore a beautiful boutique dress, her braids neat and adorned with pink bows that matched her shy smile. As they walked into Lux & Co. hand in hand, their eyes went wide with wonder. The store was magnificent, gleaming marble floors, crystal chandeliers, carefully curated displays of jewelry and designer goods. This was their mother's creation, though at 8 years old, they didn't fully grasp the magnitude of what she'd built. They just knew they were on a mission. But someone else was watching them too. From her elevated office overlooking the sales floor, Bethany Sullivan stood at the one-way glass window, her arms crossed, her eyes fixed on the security monitor. She was 42 years old and had managed this store for 8 years. 8 long years of what she considered thankless work. Bethany was bitter. She'd been passed over for regional manager not once but twice. And in her mind, it wasn't because of her performance or her management style. Oh no. She blamed corporate politics. She blamed diversity initiatives. She blamed everyone and everything except herself. The truth was, Bethany ran her store with an iron fist and a suspicious mind. She prided herself on what she called protecting store assets. But really, it was about control, about power, about deciding who belonged and who didn't. And when she saw 2 young black girls enter her store alone without an adult, her mind immediately went to the worst possible place. She picked up her radio and called her assistant manager. "Derek, come to my office. Now." Derek Chen appeared moments later. He was 35, thoughtful, and genuinely cared about doing the right thing. "What's up, Bethany?" She pointed at the monitor showing Zara and Zaira walking through the store, their small designer purses clutched in their hands. "Those 2, I want you to watch them closely." Derek frowned, looking at the screen. "Bethany, they're just kids." "I don't care," she cut him off. "Something's off about this. 2 children that age alone in a store like this? Watch them. Stay close." "I have a feeling about this." Derek wanted to protest. He wanted to say what he was thinking, that they were just children, that they looked well-dressed and harmless, that maybe Bethany's feelings were based on something other than legitimate security concerns. But he needed this job. He had a family to support. So he just nodded and headed back to the floor, an uncomfortable knot forming in his stomach. Meanwhile, Zara and Zaira had made their way to the jewelry counter, and that's where they met Jessica Martinez. Jessica was 24 years old, a warm-hearted Latina woman who genuinely loved her job, not because of the paycheck, but because she loved helping people find the perfect gift, the perfect piece that would make someone smile. When she saw the 2 little girls approaching with wide eyes and hopeful expressions, her heart melted instantly. "Hi there, sweethearts," Jessica greeted them with a genuine smile. "Are you looking for something special today?" Zara's face lit up. She pulled out her phone and showed Jessica a screenshot of the bracelet they'd found online. "Yes, we want to buy this for our mommy's birthday tomorrow. Do you have it?" Jessica looked at the image and her smile grew even wider. "Oh, that's the sterling silver bracelet with the heart charm. That's such a beautiful choice. You 2 are the sweetest daughters ever. Let me show you." She led them to the display case and carefully pulled out the bracelet. When Zaira saw it in person, she gasped. "It's even prettier than in the picture. And it's $45, Zara added, her voice proud and confident. "We have enough." Jessica's heart swelled. Here were 2 little girls who'd clearly saved or budgeted their money to buy their mother a gift. It was one of the purest, sweetest things she'd seen in her 3 years working retail. "This is going to make your mom so happy," Jessica said warmly. "Would you like me to gift wrap it for you? We can make it really beautiful with ribbons and everything." "Yes, please," both girls said in unison, then giggled at their twin moment. Zara confidently pulled out her small pink wallet and retrieved her debit card, placing it on the counter with the careful pride of someone making their first independent purchase. Everything was perfect. Everything was going exactly as the girls had hoped. But in her office above, Bethany Sullivan was watching every second on the security feed. And she didn't see two innocent children buying a gift for their mother. She saw what her biases told her to see. She saw two black girls with a debit card they probably didn't actually own. She saw a transaction that needed to be verified. She saw a situation that required her intervention. And so, with her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor, Bethany descended from her office like a storm cloud, ready to turn these little girls' special day into their worst nightmare. Here's my question for you. Have you ever been treated differently in a store because of how you looked? How did it make you feel? Share your experience in the comments, because what's about to happen to these girls happens to people every single day. And if you want to see the exact moment this shopping trip turns into a traumatic confrontation, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because what Bethany Sullivan did next will make your blood boil. Stay with me, this story is just getting started. Jessica was just about to ring up the bracelet when a sharp voice cut through the moment like a knife. "Jessica, I need to speak with you. Now." Bethany Sullivan stood behind the counter, her arms crossed, her face stern and cold. The warmth that had filled the air just seconds ago evaporated instantly. Jessica looked up, startled. "Of course, Miss Sullivan, I'm just helping these young ladies purchase." "Now, Jessica." Jessica excused herself and stepped a few feet away, but everyone could still hear Bethany's harsh whisper. "Where are their parents?" I'm not sure. They said they're shopping for their mother." "You're about to process a transaction for unaccompanied minors with a debit card? Do you understand the liability issues here?" Jessica blinked, confused. "But Miss Sullivan, they have a card and it's a simple purchase." "I'll handle this," Bethany snapped, cutting her off. "Step aside." Bethany approached the twins with a tight, forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Hi there, girls. Where are your parents today?" Zara answered proudly, her confidence still intact. "Our driver dropped us off at the mall. We're shopping by ourselves because we're big girls now." Zara nodded enthusiastically. "It's our first time shopping alone." Bethany's smile faded into something harder. "I see. And this card," she picked it up from the counter, examining it between her fingers. "Where exactly did you get this?" The question hung in the air like an accusation. Zara answered politely, just as her mother had taught her. "Our mommy gave it to us. It's our card." "Your card," Bethany repeated slowly, her tone dripping with skepticism. She held the card up to the light, turning it over as if inspecting a counterfeit bill. "This is a bank debit card. Do you really expect me to believe that two 8-year-old girls have their own debit cards?" Zara frowned, confusion spreading across her face. "But we do. Mommy gave them to us to teach us about money." By now, other customers in the store had started to notice. A few slowed their shopping to watch. An elderly black woman named Dorothy Washington, who'd been browsing nearby, moved closer with a frown deepening on her face. Bethany continued her interrogation. "And where is this mother of yours? Why isn't she here with you?" "We wanted to surprise her," Zara said quietly, her confidence starting to waver. "It's her birthday tomorrow." Bethany hummed dismissively. "And how much money is on this card?" Zara's voice rose slightly, frustration creeping in. "Enough to buy the bracelet, that's why we're here." "We'll see about that," Bethany muttered, still examining the card as if it were evidence in a crime scene. And that's when everything changed. The store's entrance door slid open, and another little girl walked in. A white girl about the same age as Zara and Zaira, with blonde hair and a ponytail. She was accompanied by her older sister, a teenager who looked about 16. The younger girl, Emma, wore a cute dress and carried a small purse. Emma walked right up to the jewelry counter, just a few feet from where Zara and Zaira stood, and smiled at Jessica. "Hi, I want to buy a necklace for my mom's birthday. Can you help me?" She pulled out her own debit card and placed it on the counter. And Bethany Sullivan's entire demeanor transformed in an instant. Her face softened, her tight expression melted into a warm, genuine smile. Her voice became syrupy sweet. "Well, hello there, sweetheart. Shopping for your mom. How wonderful. What a thoughtful daughter you are." Emma beamed. "Thank you. I've been saving up." That's so precious. Bethany cooed. Jessica will take excellent care of you. Jessica, still uncomfortable from the earlier interaction, processed Emma's card. It went through without a hitch. Bethany didn't ask to see it, didn't examine it under the light, didn't question where Emma got it or demand to know where her parents were, didn't ask a single probing question. She just smiled and let the transaction proceed as normal. The contrast was immediate, stark, undeniable, and everyone watching saw it. Zara's voice cut through the store, loud and trembling with anger. Why didn't you ask her where she got her card? The store went silent. Bethany's face flushed red. That's different. How? Zara demanded, tears starting to form in her eyes. We both have cards. We're both the same age. Why is it different? Dorothy Washington, the elderly woman who'd been watching, stepped forward with fire in her eyes. I'd like to know that too. I just watched you examine these girls' card like it was a forgery, interrogate them about their parents, treat them like criminals. But this little white girl walks up with the exact same type of card, and you're all smiles and sweetness? Explain that to me. Other customers murmured in agreement. Someone pulled out their phone and started recording. Bethany's face went from red to pale. She's with her sister. And I'm with my sister, Zara said, her voice breaking as tears streamed down her face. Emma's older sister, sensing the tension and recognizing what was happening, gently took Emma's hand. Come on, Em, let's go shop somewhere else. She looked at Bethany with pure disgust before leading her little sister out of the store. Emma looked back at Zara and Zaira with confusion and sympathy, not fully understanding but knowing something was very wrong. Derek Chen had been watching from a few feet away and his stomach turned. He'd seen Bethany's instincts before, but watching it happen in real time, seeing the blatant difference in how she treated those children based solely on the color of their skin, it made him sick. He approached quickly. Bethany, both cards were legitimate. The system approved them, there's no issue here. But Bethany was in too deep now. She'd been called out, she was being recorded. And instead of backing down, instead of recognizing her mistake, she doubled down. The system can be wrong, she said sharply. I have reason to believe this card may not actually belong to these children. It could be stolen. It's not stolen, Zara shouted, her voice cracking with frustration and fear. We're not liars, Zaira added through her sobs. Jessica couldn't stay quiet anymore. Miss Sullivan, please. The card was approved, they're just children trying to buy their mother a gift. Bethany whirled on her. Jessica, if you value your employment here, I suggest you stay out of this. Jessica's mouth snapped shut, her eyes wide with shock and fear. More customers had gathered now, forming a loose circle around the scene. Multiple phones were out, recording every moment. The murmurs grew louder. This is discrimination, someone said. Somebody needs to call corporate, another voice added. Those poor babies, a woman whispered. Bethany's control was slipping, and she could feel it. So she did what people do when they're losing power. She escalated. She grabbed her radio. Security, I need Marcus Thompson to the jewelry counter immediately. Within moments, Marcus Thompson appeared. He was 50 years old, a black man who'd worked mall security for 15 years. He was a grandfather himself, with twin grandsons about the same age as these girls. And when he saw the scene, two terrified 8-year-old black girls crying at the counter, while a white manager stood over them and a crowd watched, his heart sank. Miss Sullivan? He asked carefully, already dreading what he was about to be asked to do. Marcus, I need you to detain these two until we can reach their parents and verify ownership of this debit card. Marcus looked at the girls, looked at their expensive clothes, looked at their small designer purses, looked at their tears. Ma'am, they're little girls. What exactly did they do? They're attempting to use what may be a stolen debit card. The card was approved by your system, Marcus said slowly. I can see it on the screen right there. That doesn't mean it's theirs. Derek stepped in, his voice firm. Bethany, detaining customers whose cards have been approved is not store policy. This is wrong. Are you questioning my authority, Derek? Bethany snapped. I'm questioning your judgment, he shot back, not caring anymore about the consequences. Someone in the crowd shouted, "We all saw you treat that white girl completely different. This is racism." Another voice, "This is disgusting. Those kids didn't do anything wrong." Bethany was losing complete control now. The store was full of witnesses. Cameras were recording. Her authority was being challenged. And in her panic, she made the worst decision of her life. She pulled out her cell phone and dialed 911. The crowd gasped. "Yes, I need police at Lux & Co. in Riverside Mall," Bethany said, her voice shaking slightly. "I have 2 unaccompanied minors who may be using a stolen credit card. They're refusing to cooperate." "You're calling the police?" Dorothy Washington's voice boomed across the store. "On babies? After we all just watched you let a white child walk out without a single question? This is insane." Someone else yelled, "I'm posting this video everywhere," a young man shouted, holding up his phone. Zaira was sobbing uncontrollably now, her small body shaking. Zara wrapped her arms around her sister, trying to be strong, trying to be brave, but her own tears were flowing freely. With trembling hands, Zara pulled out the pink emergency phone from her pocket, the one their mother had given them for situations just like this. "I'm calling Mommy," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. And Bethany Sullivan, in her arrogance, in her certainty that she was right, let out a cold, mocking laugh. "Go ahead," she sneered. "Call whoever you want. Let's see if this mother of yours even exists. Let's see if she can explain where you really got that card." She had no idea what she'd just unleashed. Because 10 minutes away, Victoria Carter's phone was ringing. And when the mayor and CEO of Lux & Co. heard her daughters sobbing on the other end, everything was about to change. Here's my question for you. If you had been in that store, would you have said something? Would you have stepped in to defend those children, or would you have stayed silent? Be honest with yourself and drop your answer in the comments. And if you want to see the moment Bethany Sullivan realizes she just made the biggest mistake of her life, you need to subscribe right now. Because when Victoria Carter walks through those doors, the entire store and this manager's entire world is about to explode. Hit that subscribe button and let's see what happens next. Victoria Carter was in her office at City Hall, reviewing budget proposals for the upcoming fiscal year. As mayor, her days were packed with meetings, decisions that affected hundreds of thousands of people, and the constant weight of public responsibility. But nothing, absolutely nothing, was more important than the 2 little girls she'd given life to. So when her phone lit up with Zaira Mobile flashing across the screen, she didn't hesitate. She answered immediately. "Hey, baby girl." But instead of her daughter's usual cheerful voice, Victoria heard something that made her blood run cold. Sobbing, pure, terrified sobbing. "Mommy, Mommy, please come, please." Victoria's heart stopped. She shot up from her desk, nearly knocking over her coffee. "Zaira, baby, what's wrong? What happened? Where are you?" She heard fumbling, and then Zara's voice came through, trying to be strong but cracking with fear and anger. "Mommy, we're at the Lux store at Riverside Mall. We tried to buy you a birthday present, but the manager said we stole our card and she called the police on us." Victoria's entire world tilted. "She what?" "And Mommy," Zara continued, her voice breaking, "there was a white girl here, same age as us, and she had a card too, and the lady smiled at her and let her buy stuff with no questions. But us, she said we stole ours. She's been mean to us the whole time." Victoria's fear transformed into something else, something cold, something dangerous, fury unlike anything she'd felt in years. "Put me on speaker right now," she commanded, her voice shifting from concerned mother to the leader of a city and $1 billion company. "Do it now, Zara." Zara's small hands fumbled with the phone, and suddenly Victoria's voice filled the store. "This is Victoria Carter. I am the mother of those children." The authority in her voice made several people in the crowd flinch. This wasn't just any angry parent. This was power speaking. "I am exactly 10 minutes away from your location, and I want everyone listening to understand something very clearly. If anyone, and I mean anyone, puts their hands on my daughters, If one police officer so much as raises their voice at my 8-year-old babies before I arrive, there will be legal, professional, and political consequences beyond anything you can possibly imagine. Bethany tried to interrupt. Ma'am, your daughters are in possession of. My daughters, Victoria's voice cut through like steel, are in possession of debit cards that I gave them. Cards that are connected to trust funds I established in their names. Cards that your system has already verified and approved. Now you are going to step away from them. You are not going to touch them, and you're going to wait for me to arrive. Do you understand me? The store had gone completely silent, except for the twins' soft crying. But then, someone in the crowd, a young man in his 20s, pulled out his phone and started typing frantically. His eyes went wide. Wait. Victoria Carter. Hold on. He held up his phone to show the person next to him. That's Mayor Victoria Carter. Look! The woman next to him gasped and pulled out her own phone, searching. Within seconds, she held up her screen showing a Forbes article. Oh my God, she's not just the mayor, she's the CEO of Lux & Co. She founded this company. It says here she's worth $2.3 billion. The murmur spread through the crowd like wildfire. That's the mayor's kids? The CEO's daughters? She called the cops on the CEO's children? In the CEO's own store? Derek Chen, who'd been watching everything unfold with growing dread, pulled out his tablet. His hands were shaking as he pulled up two websites side by side. On the left, the Lux & Co. corporate website with Victoria's professional photo and the title Founder and Chief Executive Officer. On the right, the City of Riverside's official website with the same woman in a formal mayoral portrait. He walked up to Bethany and held the tablet in front of her face. Bethany, you need to see this. Bethany's eyes scanned the screens, and the transformation was instant. All the color, every last bit drained from her face. Her lips went pale. Her hands started trembling uncontrollably. No, she whispered. No, 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 no. Her legs seemed to give out slightly, and she grabbed the counter for support. This can't be happening. This can't. She looked at Derek with pure panic in her eyes. Derek, we need to fix this. We need to fix this before she gets here. We can still fix it. Derek's voice was hard, colder than Bethany had ever heard it. Bethany, there's no fixing this. Everyone saw what you did. Everyone saw how you treated that white girl versus how you treated these children. It's recorded from a dozen different angles. It's probably already on social media. You racially profiled the mayor's children, the CEO's children, in their mother's own store. He shook his head, genuine disgust on his face. There is no fixing this. Bethany looked around wildly at the crowd, at all the phones pointed at her, at the twins still crying and clutching each other. The walls were closing in. And then the police arrived. Officers Jake Rodriguez and Sarah Chen walked through the entrance, and immediately the charged atmosphere hit them. A crowd of at least 30 people, phones out recording, tension thick enough to cut with a knife, and two small black girls in expensive clothes sobbing at the jewelry counter. Officer Chen, a mother herself, immediately knelt down to the girls' level, her voice gentle and concerned. Hi, sweethearts, can you tell me your names? Zaira hiccuped through her tears. I'm Zaira. This is Zara. We're twins. Okay, Zaira and Zara, can you tell me what happened? Zara, trying to be brave, pulled out her phone and showed the officer their family photo. The lock screen showing them with their mother. That's our mommy. She's Mayor Victoria Carter. We were trying to buy her a birthday present with our card, but this lady said we stole it and called you. But we didn't steal anything. The lady let a white girl use her card right in front of us with no questions, but she said ours was fake. Officer Rodriguez's eyebrows shot up. He looked at his partner, then at Bethany. Mayor Carter? Your mother is Mayor Victoria Carter? Both girls nodded, and Zaira added quietly, She's coming right now. She said 10 minutes. That's when Dorothy Washington stepped forward, her voice clear and authoritative. Officers, my name is Dorothy Washington. I'm a retired elementary school principal, and I witnessed this entire incident from start to finish. She proceeded to give a detailed, damning account, how the twins had been polite and respectful, how they'd had a legitimate debit card that was approved by the system, how a white child had come in minutes later with an identical form of payment and was processed without a single question, how the manager had examined the twins' card under a light, interrogated them, accused them of theft, and ultimately called the police. It was racial profiling, plain and simple, Dorothy stated firmly. Clear as day. And I'm not the only one who saw it. At least 5 other people stepped forward, holding up their phones. I recorded the whole thing. I got it on video too. I have both transactions recorded. You can see the difference in treatment clear as anything. Officer Chen stood up slowly, her face grave. She looked at Bethany. Ma'am, did you call 911 to report these children for using what you believed was a stolen card? Bethany's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. No sound came out. Officer Rodriguez checked his computer. The card transaction shows as approved in your system. There was no decline charge, no fraud alert, nothing that would indicate a problem. He looked at Bethany with barely concealed disappointment. Ma'am, I strongly suggest you don't say another word until Mayor Carter arrives, and you might want to contact your own legal representation. Bethany looked like she might faint, and then the automatic doors burst open. Victoria Carter entered like a force of nature, 6 feet tall in her heels, wearing an impeccably tailored charcoal designer suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. Her natural hair was styled in an elegant twist, and her presence commanded instant attention from every person in that store. Behind her were 3 members of her security detail in dark suits, and her chief of staff followed with a tablet. Already documenting everything, the crowd parted immediately, creating a clear path. Victoria's eyes scanned the store with laser focus until they found what they were looking for. Zara, Zaira, Mommy! Both girls broke free from where they'd been standing and ran to their mother. Victoria dropped to her knees instantly, not caring about her expensive suit, not caring about her position, not caring about the cameras, and caught both daughters in a fierce embrace. I'm here, babies. Mommy's here. You're safe now. You're safe. She pulled back, her hands moving quickly over them, checking for any signs of injury, any marks, anything that might indicate they'd been hurt. She cupped their faces, wiped their tears, kissed their foreheads. Did anyone touch you? Did anyone put their hands on you? No, Mommy, Zara whispered, but she was so mean. She said we stole our card. She let the white girl go, with no questions, Zaira added through her tears. Why, Mommy? Why were we different? Victoria's eyes filled with tears that she blinked back. Oh, my babies, my beautiful babies. You didn't do anything wrong, not one single thing. Do you hear me? She held them for another long moment, and the entire store watched in silence. Several people in the crowd were crying themselves, moved by the raw display of a mother's love and a child's fear. But then, satisfied that her daughters were physically unharmed, Victoria slowly stood. She kept one hand on each girl's shoulder, and when she lifted her eyes to look across the store, her expression transformed. The warmth and tenderness that had been there for her daughters vanished, replaced by something cold and dangerous. Her eyes locked onto Bethany Sullivan, with the intensity of a predator that had found its prey. Bethany was visibly shaking, all color gone from her face, looking like she might vomit at any moment. Victoria's voice, when she spoke, was quiet, but it carried to every corner of that store with absolute authority. You called the police on my 8-year-old daughters for shopping in my store. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact, an accusation, a promise of consequences. Dorothy Washington stepped forward again. Mayor Carter, I'm Dorothy Washington. I witnessed everything. This manager processed a transaction for a white child with a debit card. No questions asked, all smiles and warmth. But your daughters? She examined their card like it was counterfeit, interrogated them about where they got it, questioned their story, and ultimately called the police. The only difference between these children was the color of their skin. I saw it too, another customer called out. I have it on video. So do I, someone else added, At least 7 different people held up their phones, offering video evidence. Victoria's jaw tightened visibly. She looked at the police officers. Officers, what exactly were my daughters accused of? Officer Rodriguez cleared his throat uncomfortably. The manager called to report 2 unaccompanied minors possibly using a stolen credit card. Mayor Carter. A stolen card. Victoria's voice was ice. Despite the fact that the card was approved by the store's own verification system. Despite the fact that my daughters clearly come from a family of means, given their clothing, their manner, their speech. Despite the fact that they politely explained it was their card, given to them by their mother. Despite all of that, this woman decided they were criminals. She turned her gaze back to Bethany and her voice dropped even lower, becoming even more dangerous. Let me be absolutely clear about what happened here. You saw 2 well-dressed black children with a valid debit card, and you assumed criminality. You saw a white child with identical payment, and you assumed innocence. Both children were the same age. Both were unaccompanied. Both were making similar purchases. The only variable that changed was the color of their skin. Bethany finally found her voice, and it came out as a desperate croak. Mayor Carter. Miss Carter, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know they were your daughters. If I had known... Stop. Victoria's single word silenced her instantly. If you had known they were my daughters. Let me ask you something, Miss Sullivan. If they weren't my daughters? If they were just 2 black 8-year-olds whose mother wasn't the mayor or the CEO, would your behavior have been acceptable then? Would terrorizing them, humiliating them, traumatizing them have been okay if they had no powerful mother to defend them? Bethany's mouth opened but no sound came out. Answer me. Victoria's voice rose for the first time, sharp and commanding. No. Bethany stammered. But I was trying to. You're not sorry for what you did, Victoria said, her voice returning to that cold, controlled tone that was somehow more terrifying than yelling. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry that your victims had power. You're sorry that there are consequences. There's a difference, Miss Sullivan. A very significant difference. Someone in the crowd started clapping, and within seconds, applause spread through the entire store. But Victoria raised her hand, and silence fell immediately. That's the kind of command presence she had. Don't applaud yet, she said, looking around at the crowd. Because what happened to my daughters today, it happens every single day to children and families who don't have the resources, the platform, or the power to fight back. And that ends today. She looked back at Bethany, and her next words were delivered with the finality of a judge's gavel. Bethany Sullivan, your employment with Lux & Co. is terminated, effective immediately. What do you think should happen to managers who racially profile customers? Should they just be fired, or should there be legal consequences too? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think. And if you want to see exactly what happens when Victoria Carter dismantles not just this manager, but the entire system that allowed this to happen, you need to quickly subscribe, because this is about to become a national story that changes everything. Don't go anywhere. We're just getting to the best part. Victoria's chief of staff stepped forward, tablet in hand. Ma'am, I have Patricia Williams from corporate on the line, along with Thomas Reed from legal and Ellen Rodriguez from HR. They've been briefed and are standing by. Victoria nodded sharply and took the tablet. Put him on speaker. The store went silent as 3 voices came through crystal clear. Victoria, it's Patricia. We're all here. What do you need? Victoria's voice was professional, controlled, but with an edge that could cut steel. Patricia, Thomas, Ellen, I'm standing in our Riverside location. The store manager, Bethany Sullivan, racially profiled my 8-year-old daughters. She processed a transaction for a white child with a debit card without question, then accused Zara and Zaira of theft when they attempted to use their own legitimate card. Despite system approval, she interrogated them, threatened them, and called the police. There are multiple witnesses and extensive video documentation. There was a sharp collective intake of breath through the speaker. Patricia Williams, the COO, spoke first, her voice tight with barely controlled anger. I'm pulling up the security footage now from our remote access. Give me 30 seconds. The store waited in silence. 30 seconds felt like an eternity. Oh my God, Patricia's voice came back, shaking. Victoria, I'm watching it now. The differential treatment is, it's undeniable, it's clear, it's indefensible. The contrast between how she treated that white child versus your daughters is documented in high definition. Thomas Reed, the general counsel, jumped in. Miss Sullivan, if you're present, I'm advising you not to say another word without legal representation. Everything you say at this point is being recorded and will be used in our investigation and any subsequent proceedings. Ellen Rodriguez from HR spoke next, her voice firm and official. Bethany Sullivan, you are hereby placed on immediate administrative leave without pay, effective this moment, pending a full investigation into this incident and your conduct as a manager. Bethany's knees buckled slightly. She grabbed the counter to stay upright, her face a mask of pure terror. But Victoria wasn't done. Not by a long shot. I want more than an investigation, Victoria said coldly. I want answers. Because if this happened in my store, under my watch, there's a systemic problem that needs to be torn out by the roots. Dorothy Washington stepped forward again. Mayor Carter, I want to provide a formal statement. I'm prepared to give sworn testimony about everything I witnessed today. This was discrimination, clear as day, and I won't let it be swept under the rug. Thank you, Mrs. Washington, Victoria said with genuine gratitude. Your testimony will be crucial. But then something else happened, something that made Victoria's blood run even colder. A young black woman in her 20s raised her hand tentatively. Mayor Carter? I have something to say. Please, speak freely. The woman's voice shook. 6 months ago, I came to this store with my little brother. He's 13. We were shopping for our mom's birthday, just like your daughter's. He had a gift card. And this same manager, she pointed at Bethany, followed us around the store for 30 minutes. She didn't say anything, but she watched us like hawks. My brother was so uncomfortable he started crying. We left without buying anything. I filed a complaint with corporate. Nothing happened. Murmurs spread through the crowd. An older Latino man spoke up next. Last year, I tried to return something with my receipt. Valid return, within the time frame. This manager told me the receipt looked questionable. She refused the return and told me to leave. I filed a complaint too. Never heard back. Another voice. My daughter, she's black, she's 16, tried to buy a dress here. Had her debit card. This woman made her show ID, made her prove it was her card, even after it was approved. Made her feel like a criminal in front of everyone. The stories kept coming. 5, 6, 7 people sharing their experiences. All people of color. All treated with suspicion, hostility, or outright discrimination. All at this store. All under Bethany Sullivan's management. Victoria's expression grew darker with each account. Then Jessica Martinez, the sales associate, stepped forward, her voice trembling but determined. Mayor Carter, Miss Carter, I need to tell you something. I tried to help your daughters. They were perfect, polite, respectful, excited. Everything was fine. The transaction was approved, but Miss Sullivan came down and ordered me to interrogate them. I told her the card was legitimate, that there was no problem, and she threatened my job. She told me if I valued my employment, I'd stay out of it. Jessica's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry. I should have done more. I should have refused. But I was scared of losing my job, and You tried, Victoria said gently, cutting off her spiral. You tried within the power you had. That matters. And then, Derek Chen stepped forward, and what he said changed everything. Mayor Carter, there's something you need to know. Something corporate needs to hear. He pulled out his tablet and took a deep breath. Over the past 2 years, I filed 4 separate formal complaints with regional HR about Bethany Sullivan's discriminatory behavior toward customers of color. Victoria's eyes narrowed. 4 complaints? Yes, ma'am. 4 documented incidents with dates, times, detailed descriptions, and witness statements. He pulled up his files and showed them to Victoria. September 2023. Miss Sullivan followed a black teenage boy through the store for 45 minutes, insisting he was shoplifting despite him carrying bags from other stores and making no attempt to conceal anything. October 2023. She questioned whether a Latino family's credit cards were legitimate, even after all 3 cards were approved by our system. March 2024. She refused to accept a return from an Asian customer, claiming the receipt was altered. It wasn't. July 2024. She called security on a black man in his 30s who was wearing a suit and shopping for his wife's anniversary. He was a local attorney. Derek's voice was steady but filled with regret. I documented everything. I submitted detailed reports each time. I included witness statements. I flagged the pattern, and every single complaint was reviewed by Regional Manager Scott Morrison and marked as unsubstantiated with no action taken. The silence that followed was deafening. Victoria's voice, when she spoke, was dangerously quiet. Scott Morrison knew. He knew there was a documented pattern of racial discrimination, and he did nothing. Worse than nothing, Derek added. He actively dismissed it. I have the email responses. Each time, I was told there wasn't enough evidence, or that Miss Sullivan's explanation was reasonable, or that the customers were being overly sensitive. One email literally said that I should focus on sales metrics instead of social issues. Thomas Reed's voice came through the speaker, and he sounded furious. Derek, I need you to forward all of that documentation to me immediately, right now. Scott Morrison is being placed on immediate administrative leave, effective this moment, along with his supervisor, Janet Chen, for failure to act on documented discrimination complaints. Patricia's voice joined in. Victoria, I'm pulling complaint data from all 347 stores right now. If this is happening at other locations, if complaints are being systematically dismissed, then we have a cancer in this organization, Victoria finished. And we're cutting it out, all of it. She turned to address the crowd, her voice ringing with authority. I want to thank every single person who spoke up today. Mrs. Washington and everyone who shared their experiences, everyone who recorded what happened. You made justice possible. Without witnesses, without evidence, this would have been swept under the rug like all the others. She looked at Derek. Derek Chen, you documented discrimination when you had no obligation to do so. You filed complaints knowing it might hurt your career. You tried to protect people even though you had no authority. That is the kind of integrity and moral courage I want in my leadership. Derek looked stunned. Effective immediately, you are promoted to store manager of this location, with full salary, benefits, and performance bonuses commensurate with that position. Derek's eyes went wide. Mayor Carter, I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep doing what you've been doing. Say you'll keep speaking up. Say you'll never look away when you see injustice. I will. I promise you I will. Victoria turned to Jessica. Jessica Martinez, you showed integrity today. You tried to do the right thing even when threatened. You're promoted to assistant manager, effective immediately. Jessica gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. Thank you. Thank you so much. And then Victoria turned to face Bethany Sullivan, and her expression became ice. Bethany Sullivan, you are terminated from Lux & Co., effective immediately, for gross violation of company values, discriminatory conduct, creating a hostile environment, and bringing disrepute to this organization. Bethany's face crumpled. Please, please, I'm begging you. I have a mortgage. I need this job. I'll do anything. Training, therapy, community service, anything. Please don't do this. Thomas Reed's voice came through the speaker, cold and final. Ms. Sullivan, your employment contract permits immediate termination without severance for conduct that violates company core values. Given the evidence, security footage, multiple witness statements, video recordings from customers, and your documented history of dismissed complaints, you have no legal recourse. I strongly advise you not to pursue litigation, as the discovery process would be devastating to any case you might attempt to build. Bethany looked around desperately, as if hoping someone, anyone, would intervene on her behalf. But she found only cold stares, disgusted expressions, and phones still recording her downfall. Victoria held out her hand, palm up. Your badge, your store keys, and your access card. Now. Bethany's hands shook violently as she fumbled with her name badge, struggling to unpin it from her blazer. She pulled her keys from her purse, keys that had represented her authority for 8 years, and her access card. They clattered onto the counter with the sound of a career ending. Please, Bethany whispered one last time, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Victoria's voice was quiet but carried absolute finality. You're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry there were consequences. You're sorry you can't get away with it anymore. There's a difference. She paused, then added, the exit is behind you. I suggest you use it. Bethany looked around one last time, at Derek, who met her gaze with disappointment, at Jessica, who looked away, at Marcus, who shook his head sadly, at the crowd of customers, none of whom showed her an ounce of sympathy. And then, in complete silence except for the clicking of her heels against the marble floor, Bethany Sullivan walked toward the exit. Every eye followed her. Every phone captured her final walk of shame. As the automatic doors closed behind her with a soft hiss, someone in the crowd started clapping. Within seconds, the entire store erupted in thunderous applause and cheers. But Victoria raised her hand, and silence fell immediately. Don't celebrate yet, she said firmly, because firing one bigot doesn't solve the problem. This is systemic. This requires systemic solutions. She turned back to her daughters, and her voice softened. Now, my brave girls, let's finish what you came here to do. Victoria looked at Jessica. I believe my daughters were trying to make a purchase. Jessica's face lit up through her tears. Yes, absolutely. She picked up the twins' debit card, the same card that had been so thoroughly questioned and examined. She swiped it through the reader. It processed immediately. Perfectly, just like it had the first time. Transaction approved, Jessica said with a smile. Zara and Zaira looked up at their mother and Victoria nodded. See, your card always worked. It was always legitimate. You were always right. Jessica wrapped the bracelet in the most beautiful paper they had. Silver with gold ribbons and an elegant bow. She handed the gift to the twins with genuine warmth. For your amazing mom. From 2 of the bravest girls I've ever met. Victoria knelt down and hugged her daughters close. Thank you, babies. This is the most precious gift I've ever received. Not because of what it is, but because of what you went through to get it. You were brave. You called for help. You stood up for yourselves. I'm so proud of you. She stood and addressed the crowd one final time. Thank you to every person here who spoke up, who recorded, who refused to look away. You are the reason change is possible. You are witnesses to injustice, and your voices matter. Never forget that. Dorothy Washington stepped forward one last time. Mayor Carter, what you did here today, holding this company accountable, listening to these stories, taking immediate action, that's leadership. That's justice. Victoria nodded, her eyes glistening. Mrs. Washington, what you did, speaking up for children who weren't yours, refusing to stay silent, offering to testify, that's heroism. Thank you. As the crowd began to disperse, still buzzing with emotion and conversation, Victoria's chief of staff approached quietly. Ma'am, the media has gotten wind of this. There are multiple news vans outside the mall. It's already trending on social media. The videos are going viral. Victoria looked down at her daughters, considered for a moment, then nodded with determination. Good. Let them see. Let everyone see what happened here. It's time the world knew. If you want to see what happens when this story goes viral, when Victoria Carter takes this fight from one store to a national movement, you need to stay subscribed. Because what happens next will inspire you, challenge you, and maybe even change how you see the world. Don't miss it, the best part is still to come. Victoria stood outside the mall, facing a wall of cameras and reporters. News vans from every major network had arrived within minutes. The story was already exploding online. Mayor Carter, is it true your daughters were racially profiled? Victoria raised her hand and silence fell immediately. Today, my 8-year-old daughters went to buy their mother a birthday gift at a Lux & Co. store, a company I founded. They used their own debit card, which was approved by our system. But the manager interrogated them, examined their card like it was counterfeit, accused them of theft, and called the police. She paused, her voice hardening. Minutes before, a white child made an identical purchase with her own debit card. She was processed without question, with smiles and warmth. My daughters, treated like criminals. The only difference was the color of their skin. The reporters hung on every word. I've kept my daughters out of the public eye their entire lives to protect them. But I won't be silent about this. Because if it can happen to the daughters of a CEO and mayor, imagine what happens to families without those resources. A reporter asked what actions she was taking. The manager has been terminated. We're auditing all 347 stores. We've discovered 42 complaints from black and brown customers were dismissed, with only 3 resulting in action. Everyone involved in those dismissals will face consequences. She continued, all stores will implement mandatory bias training, an independent complaint hotline, and an employee advisory council. As mayor, I'm proposing the Fair Shopping Act, requiring all retailers to document discrimination complaints. I'm tripling funding for the Human Rights Commission. Another reporter asked if she was using her position for personal revenge. Victoria's eyes flashed. This isn't personal, it's universal. This isn't revenge, it's justice. Yes, I have power, and I'm going to use every bit of it to make sure what happened to my babies doesn't keep happening to anyone else's babies. That evening at home, the twins asked the question Victoria had been dreading. Mommy, why did that lady think we were bad just because we're brown? Victoria pulled them close. She has something called prejudice. She made assumptions about you based on your beautiful brown skin instead of who you actually are. That's racism, and it's wrong. But I want you to know, you are beautiful, worthy, and deserving of respect. Always. Will our speaking out help other kids? Zaira asked. Yes, baby, it already has. And she was right. Within days, the videos had been viewed over 50 million times. Justice for Zara and Zaira trended worldwide. Families everywhere shared their own stories of retail discrimination. Victoria pushed through massive changes. Scott Morrison and his supervisor were terminated for dismissing legitimate complaints. All 347 Lux & Co. stores implemented new protocols, mandatory bias training, independent complaint hotline, employee advisory council. As mayor, Victoria passed the Fair Shopping Act citywide. Within 3 months, discrimination complaints jumped 300%. Not because it increased, but because people finally believed someone would listen. 3 months later, Victoria took the twins back to the Riverside store. Derek greeted them warmly. Zaira, it's so wonderful to see you. The store was transformed. New signs read, all children welcome, all families respected. The staff was diverse, the atmosphere welcoming. Victoria watched as a young black boy browsed electronics with his father, helped by staff with genuine warmth. No hovering, no suspicion, just respect. Victoria's phone buzzed. Patricia texted, all 347 stores fully compliant, complaints down 78%, customer satisfaction is at an all-time high. Derek told Victoria, families of color say this is the first time they've felt truly comfortable here. One mother cried and thanked us for treating her like a normal customer. Victoria faced her girls. You two were brave that day. You called for help. You told your story. And because of your courage, that store is different. This city is different. You helped change the world at 8 years old. If you enjoyed this story, like, subscribe, and share with others so they can learn too. See you in our next video.